she that know. As people, we put walls up because we are afraid of getting hurt. As people, we put our hearts on ice because we've been hurt by our past. Not necessarily always a relationship of love. It's been a family member, a friend, or just being disappointed by life, period. I am she that went on dates alone to understand me. I am she that understands my power. I am she.
Hello. Welcome everybody to Testimonial Tuesday. I am your host, Sheena Goodine, CEO of Sheena Master Motivation. I am the author of the book called The Mask Behind the Mask, and Unveil the Broken Pieces of the Mask. And today we have our special guest in the building, Miss Dr. Tashina Reed. How are you doing today, Miss Reed?
I am doing great. It's Reeder, child. Tashina Reeder. It's like you're reading a book. So yeah, Tashina Reeder. People always chop that last name up, but it's all right. I'm used to it.
Don't feel bad. They chop mine up too.
But yeah, thank you for having me on your platform.
It is amazing to have you because you were here when we did the Women on a Mission podcast. So it's awesome to have you come back and, be a special guest and tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from.
Sure. So my name is Dr. Tashina Reeder, and I am hailing all the way from Philadelphia, PA. Yes, Philly. I am a speaker, I am an author, and I'm also a coach, a elevation coach, where I am also the new author, so to speak, of my new book called Manifesting Her. I'm super excited about this. And I also began an academy for women called Manifesting Her, where I actually created the program because I recognized there's a lot of women like us, or just women in general, who are suffering in silence because of the feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, fear of judgment. And so I created this program to teach women scalable ways how to build their confidence and redefine their identity and overcome those obstacles so that they can create the life with clarity they desire to live in harmony with themselves. And so I'm also a therapist. I started out as a therapist, clinically trained in marriage and family therapy. And so I do a lot of stuff.
Yes, a woman with many hats. And, we seem to tend to have that and 20,000 hats on top of it. Mm-hmm. But, it is awesome. How exciting that you're about to have your book and you got an academy going on. Yes. Like this, all this greatness and manifestation coming, yes. all around, like full circle. So can you tell us, how did you get into, because you said you were a therapist. So how did you get from being a therapist into then creating the academy?
So that's a great question. I'm asked it often. So I started out as a therapist because, of course, I wanted to help and to learn more about how to help people process some of their past pain that plays out in their day-to-day. And so through my own life experiences, because I'm not exempt from pain or suffering in life, it was then until I got into the other side that I realized there were other things that can be done for women. And in the realm of coaching, a lot of folks, I guess it's a trending thing now happening where people still prefer therapy, but they also want to have some coaching to gain practical skills to get from point A to point B. And so I figured, well, I can do both. I have the training as a therapist, but I also have the life training and areas of coaching coupled with my training as a therapist. And so with therapy, I go straight into process mode where we're talking about your past pain and how it plays out in your future. Whereas coaching, I'm dealing with the here and now, giving you practicals, like a blueprint of how to move from point A to point B. And so I enjoy both worlds. In my practice, in my therapy practice, I just deal with one-on-ones, individual therapy. Whereas my coaching, I deal with more sort of a group kind of a concept with women in a group. I think having a group with women, it gives more support in addition to me teaching. And so I think there is a wealth of information that happens in a safe place of a group. So that's how I went from therapy to coaching.
I love it. Like, it's definitely, a lot of times we do need that support. And then, we need that one-on-one to get the understanding of who we are and while we're going through these pains and the things that we deal with. So it's an excellent transition, is, from therapy to, the schooling to then giving them tools. So I commend you on what you're doing to help, a lot of us, I call it life after trauma or whatever they may be dealing with in life, period. Because
Yeah.
so many times, we have these things that happen and we get stuck and we
Mhm.
don't know like how to maneuver to the next side of it. And a lot of times we just end up staying broken. So it's a blessing. So
Yeah.
can you tell us like where did your idea of calling your book Manifestation came from? Like how did this title come about? How did this book come about? Tell me more.
It's actually interesting how this happened. This book actually was a manuscript I had for about a period of a little over 7 years, and it was initially called "My Name Is Victory." And it talked about some of my life experiences and pain I went through. But at that time, it wasn't ready to be birthed because I was still struggling with some of the things that I wanted to talk about, but I wasn't
Right.
ready to talk about. So I myself had to go into therapy myself. And so over the course of the years, I began to revisit this manuscript, thinking to myself, I can't call this My Name is Victory anymore per se, because I evolved. And of course, we get into this new, this world of where COVID hit and we're home and we're, kind of this. For me, I was in my creative space where I was able to sit still and think without having to drive back and forth to work and all that. And I remember just sitting here one day. I think I was listening to Sarah Jake Roberts, and she had gave a sermon, and it hit me. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm manifesting her." And I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I'm about to call my book, Manifesting Her. And I realized that makes sense because we all have a manifesting her story, right? And
Right.
this manifesting her is like the saying of we've all as women have gone through some pain where we're caretakers, we're nurturers, we were like the backbone, we have children, we have spouses, or whatever the case may be. We oftentimes neglect ourselves and we suffer in silence and we carrying that badge of the strong woman when we're really suffering and we need help. And then there's a part of us that goes through all that, but can see us in a different light. We see the person we want to evolve into. We see us becoming a better version of ourselves, but we just don't know how to get there. And I think many of us also experience so much trauma that we only expect more disappointment and pain. And so as a result, I realized, oh my gosh, that's my cross to bear. So having had the experience of trauma and even having that moment where I want to see, I was just tired. I want to be better. I want to do better. I just need to be better. And that was me wanting to manifest me in a different way. And that's how that title came to be, of Manifesting Her.
Listen, I love it. Because so many times we need to, like you said, get through the pain and be able to manifest ourselves to the other side and actually know that, we have to use our knowledge of who we are to manifest the greater things that need to become, better and be a better version of ourselves. So
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So what are you expecting the women to get out of manifestation?
So with this book, I give 7 strategies. So the book is
Okay.
actually called Manifesting Her, the 7 strategies to redefining your identity after trauma, build big confidence, and cultivate self-love. And so the goal of the book is really, it's me telling bits and parts of like pieces of my story coupled with
Mhm.
self-help. So as a therapist, I went right into therapist mode where I pose various 7 strategies, but I pose questions and give you some things to think about and to process on your own. And so I hope that the book will be impactful to folks who will read it, but also cause you to ponder on, oh my gosh, I can relate to this. Oh my gosh, let me do this work, right? On my own, so that I too can work through some of my own stuff, and perhaps even want to seek me out for additional support for coaching. But yeah, so the book is a mixture of me, but also some self-help components where I do a lot of therapy talk, specifically around trauma. So I define trauma, I define what it looks like, I define what it's not. I give examples of how it impacts you as an individual who's experienced it, and also explain that just because you can experience trauma not by it happening directly to you, but you can have been a witness or experienced it vicariously and still have the same impact as if it happened directly to you. And so I kind of teach a little about this is the basics of trauma, and then I go into how it shows up.
Absolutely. So, can you give people maybe a couple of examples? Because some people might not know that they're actually experiencing trauma. You know, a lot of times they might see it as if I'm not going through it, I'm not experiencing it, or it might not look like trauma to them.
Right. That's a great question. Oftentimes people don't really understand what trauma is. And in fact, we all have experienced some level of trauma. And all it really is an emotional response to a distressful experience. So in other words, when we're experiencing shock, we're feeling stress, right, to an event that takes place. It could be in the form of a car accident. It could be watching the news. For example, I don't know about you all, but every time I saw that video of George Floyd, I would get really anxious because it was a lot to take that in.
Right.
For some people, it was traumatic to see that happening unfold on TV. Community violence can be traumatic. And what happens oftentimes, we become so desensitized as a community that when we hear gunshots or things happening, we're like, oh, that happens every day. That's a sign that you've experienced some trauma, that the fact that you've become numb to it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so it's really just it's an emotional response
Right.
To a distressful experience. So it could have a natural disaster can be traumatic, like earthquakes, hurricanes, people losing their homes. Homelessness can be traumatic. Abuse, of course, any type of abuse. A car accident. Something can happen on a job that was traumatic. It varies. It looks differently. And so what I explain in the book is that there's also common reactions to trauma where once something happens that was really stressful for you, overwhelmingly stressful for you, you may go into wanting to withdraw. You may feel a bit depressed. You may get anxious. Some people may resort to substance abuse to cope, to deal with the pain. Some of us may become numb, all types of things, right? And so I think it's important for people to understand that trauma isn't just something that is tragic per se, but something that just really caused you an overwhelming amount of distress in an event. Because we don't expect it to happen. That's what makes
right.
It right.
That is definitely so true. And so often I like to tend to let people get the examples because like I said, some people, like you said, people hearing normal gunshots and they just think, oh, that's normal. It's trauma. Mm-hmm. And some people, to them, they just think it's just normal. Oh, okay, it's just another day. It's what happens.
Right, and that's where you become desensitized because it shouldn't be normalized, because that's a terrible thing to happen to experience, right? To be around
right
communities where you're normalizing gun violence, but that's the reality of our life when we're living in the urban community, right?
Right.
It's just a lot of things that not to get to all political and things like that, but even
it's okay. This is for all that
we had experienced throughout, forever for people of color, but it was really in your face on the pandemic, and that was stressful and traumatic for folks to experience that the riots and the fighting,
right,
shooting and the police all of that is traumatic to witness, whether you're watching it on TV, hearing about it on the radio, seeing the memes on social media can be just as traumatic to your system, where I had to really tap out. I had to stop watching TV for a minute because there was so much happening.
Right.
Where I found myself crying. I'm like, why am I so tearful? I need to stop watching the news. I need to tag out from Facebook, Instagram, and all those social media platforms because it was overload.
Yeah, it was starting to get overwhelming and become a lot. So I definitely understand. And that's when people depression and everything else sets in.
Yeah. And that's a common, and that happens all the time when you experience some traumatic experience. You go through a form of depression. And in fact, grief can be a form of trauma, because if you lose someone tragically because of what has happened in
right,
that can be just as traumatic as if witnessing something, shocking on the street. So yeah.
Now, another question for some people, what are some things they could do to, tools, that they could use to go through these, traumatic experiences? Because, how can they know how to take the next steps in trying to make it better?
Well, the challenge with trauma is sometimes most of us don't realize we've experienced.
Right. So the first step is acceptance.
And that's one of the steps in the book that's called acknowledge. Right. Did you read the book? Did you read the book?
No, I did.
So yeah, that's why I provide 7 steps. And the 7 steps that I provide in the book is really what I have done to get through my own traumatic experiences in life. And I think one of the big parts of the trauma is piece of this acknowledging that I'm not okay.
Right.
And we don't want to necessarily call it trauma because I think also the word trauma can be stigmatized and people are like, oh, I haven't experienced trauma. Well, you probably have, but let's just talk about it in kind of
a different
general
form.
language, right?
Right.
So when you know, it's like calling a truce with yourself. You hear that term used when people are at odds trying to find a resolution. So we're fighting to get to solve a problem and nothing's being solved. So you throw that little white little flag saying, I surrender.
Yeah.
The same concept with us is just that we're internally fighting with ourselves, right? We're at emotional conflict within because of life experiences. Maybe it's some insecurities. Maybe it's, your imposter syndrome. Maybe it is your marriage or whatever is happening within you. Recognize, I am not okay. I am not okay. And so you have to acknowledge. And we can't work on our behaviors, our patterns, our feelings if we don't acknowledge them. So the first step is to acknowledge and then to write that down. And I put in the book, journaling is a good first step to kind of just acknowledge some things. And oftentimes, we're not really honest with ourselves, right? How many times have somebody asked you, hey, sis, how you doing?
Oh, we'd be like, oh, well, I'm all right.
I'm fine, right? And I get it. That's their kind of diplomatic way of responding to the question. But really deep down inside, we're not okay. Right. And we don't even check in with ourselves to say, hey, how am I really doing? Do we sit still at times to say, what's really going on with me? Mm-hmm. But instead, we avoid it because the feelings we are experiencing may be unpleasurable. We don't want to feel pain. So we avoid it. We stuff it in these cute little boxes, bows, and all types of cute things until something happens and we're reminded that stuff comes out. And it starts to bully us for attention. So we might be depressed, we get angry, we get sad, we get anxious, and it all happens at different times. And so acknowledging that stuff is like, this is why I'm not okay. And I'm a big fan for therapy, not because I'm a therapist, but I believe having someone there trained to help you acknowledge these things. And then next is to unpack it so we can understand our own behavioral patterns and understand how it shows up so we can prioritize ourselves and really prioritize our well-being so that we can heal and work through the trauma.
I love it. Okay, so because we have the 7 steps and then they have to get through the 7 steps and then get the tools and to work through it. So after they do all that, then suppose they still trying to figure it out.
I say throughout the book, therapy. Because when you're really dealing with some difficult emotions, when you're really dealing with some things that has caused you pain, it's difficult to deal with it and understanding on your own. Because our brain, when we experience a difficult life experience, it causes you to see yourself differently in the world, right? In a different way. But it also causes you to second guess your own decisions. Whereas sometimes you make poor choices because of the fear and the shame, whatever else you may be experiencing, or feeling inadequate. So you're indecisive about how to make decisions. And so it's always good to have a village. Maybe your village looks like your grandma, or your mom, or your bestie, whomever has your supports to also use as having supports in place to be able to talk about that. And again, therapy, because they can hold that safe place for you to help you to understand how this is impacting your life and help you identify patterns and messaging that is now created, these narratives we begin to create as a result of these life experiences.
Absolutely. So when is this book coming out and when is it going to be available for people to grab it, run it, read it, and work on themselves?
So the book is still on pre-sale. I'm having a book signing on April the 30th, and so although you purchase it on pre-sale, you'll get the books in April. But if you're in the Philadelphia area or a nearby area, you are invited to attend the book signing on April the 30th. It's in Philadelphia. The information to that is at themanifestingherexperience.com, and you can read up all about all the book signing activities that will be taking place on April 30th. If you want to purchase the book, you can go to that website also to purchase the book at themanifestingherexperience.com to purchase your book. And yeah, I'm excited about that. And this is really my baby. Like I birthed this because this talks about my trauma.
Right.
And me sharing with you the steps that I continue to take to, heal, because I believe healing is ongoing. I don't believe, this is just my own belief.
Right.
I don't believe any of us ever arrive, because we're always evolving. Things in life are always constantly changing. And so we're constantly learning about ourselves. And so I continue these 7 steps every day to keep myself, being self-aware.
Right, absolutely. So what is your goal? Because you have the academy, the book is coming out, you're going on tour with the book. So what's next? Like, what is next as this mission for you?
I don't know. That's a good question. I just know that I am going with the flow of purpose, and right now it's the book. The academy, which is the coaching piece. I believe that this book actually birthed the coaching, because the coaching program is called Manifesting Her.
Okay.
And my motto now is like, I am in the business now of helping women make shift happen. Somebody said, "You cuss?" I'm like, whatever you thought you heard, shift, or the other word. I'm here to help women make some changes in their lives around those past experiences that causes insecurity and inadequacy and all those things, so they can create shift in their life and in business. Because when you've experienced difficult things, it don't just stop in your life, it also impacts your business, right? So how to overcome in both areas. And because of this, the academy is my business. So I have a profitable business as a therapist. I have my own practice, but also now I'm embarking on this coaching part where I can teach women, how to do the same. And so the goal is impact. The goal is impact and influence. I believe my go through with somebody else's get through, and that when you're transparent, healing occurs. So I like women to see that if I can do it, I'm nobody.
Right.
This girl who's gonna been through some stuff. If I can get through this, you can.
You can too.
Right.
Right. And that is a definite message that a lot of them need to get, because they may feel alone and suffer in silence because they feel they're the only one that's going through whatever they may be dealing with at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely, it's an excellent thing that you are helping them to shift their mindset and understand that, your mindset has to get a balance between what's going on to get a hold of, to then get grounded, to then be able to do business.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and that's important. I'm even thinking about some merch now, like get a T-shirt so we can have called "Shift Happens" or "Manifest."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think we just got to be encouraged. Encourage each other, encourage ourselves. Life is not always easy, but it's not always bad either, right?
Right.
The narratives. Carson, after we went through trauma acknowledging therapy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so for many people, it looks different. I believe, like for me, I'm glad that
Oh, she said she was asking.
Oh, asking. I'm sorry. I
Let's put it back. Because she put asking after the fact.
Okay. Acknowledging therapy. Then you have to heal and learn how to live a new life by faith. So you're asking me, how do you acknowledge?
I think that's what she might be asking.
How you acknowledge trauma. So as I said, many people may not realize they've experienced some trauma, but the feelings is the experiences they're having is troubling. Like maybe you realize you're depressed, you're not interested in things anymore, you're more irritated, you get angry quickly, or you're always crying, or you're feeling sad a lot, or you find yourself withdrawing. Those are red flags that something is not okay. Something is going on, that I'm having these types of experiences, or my relationships are changing. No one wants to be bothered with me, or whatever the case may be. Those are a sign. Or or if I'm married, I'm having a hard time connecting with my spouse, or we seem like we're drifting. These are red flags that something is brewing, and that it needs to be addressed. And so that would be my red flags to say, you know what, let's seek some help, or let me seek some help to really start unpacking what's really going on. And what you'll learn oftentimes, it's the underlying part of that is some type of traumatic experience that you have had. And then with faith also, I know for me, I said in the book, faith, therapy, and prayer for me was what really saved my life. And having a village of supports. I have 4 sisters. They're not by blood, but just they're real good friends. And when I tell you, these women rocked with me throughout all of my hardships. I mean, you name it, they've seen it. They cried with me, laughed with me, consoled me, all that stuff. So it's important to have a village as well when you are engaging in therapy or just dealing with some life stuff.
She said thanks.
You're welcome.
I think you gave her a better understanding of what she was trying to ask.
Okay. Yeah. Because it can get tricky. Sometimes we're so used to, we don't realize that's a red flag for us to seek help because we're on autopilot all the time. They're like, oh, okay. I think what we do too, and I was guilty of this, there could be a shift happening. I can be happy and get really angry out of nowhere. I never sat with myself and said, well, how did my behavior just shift like that? What just happened?
Right.
Like, what happened to cause me to become that angry or that sad or to become tearful? Something was happening within that I really didn't pay attention to, which is why we have to get into the habit of checking in with ourselves to really becomes growing your own self-awareness of self, to learn your patterns and behavior and know when, you know what, I need more help in this area.
Right.
Why am I afraid to step out my comfort zone? What is that really about?
Fear, a lot of times we fear that uncomfortable feeling or fearing knowing the truth, because a lot of people are scared, like, how we said we are our worst enemy, and a lot of times they're afraid of the truth of what it really is, and they rather have that false facade to just that image that they have instead of reality of really what's going on with you. Like, really, this is the mess that it is and we need to fix it. Yep. And they have that imaginary thought of who they're supposed to be, and they're really not, because they're only putting on that front for who they are when they're out in society, and then when they go back home, they're a whole mess.
I talk about that in the book too. I mean, it's right behind on your wall. It's called the mask. We all wear them, right? And I believe, I know that clinically, we don't call it a mask per se, but it's a way of hiding to keep yourself safe. It's like a way of your brain trying to keep you safe from further emotional harm. So we kind of cover up and hide behind this mask so that we won't show our vulnerability because of what we're experiencing. So, but sometimes we wear it too long, and then it stops because then the unresolved issues you've been trying to hide is filling out. Pop up. Yep, comes out. And so there's a chapter in my book called Hard Truths. And I laugh at that because there was a time where I didn't want to face my hard truths. And I think all of us don't want to face the hard truths because it's so easy to blame other people for stuff.
Yes. And that becomes a thing when people want to use you as the reason why thing is not, just situations is not happening. So they rather point the blame and play the victim than actually taking accountability for their actions of what's happening.
But what I explain is that yes, while many of us have had experience due to the hands of someone else may have caused our pain, but we too have made some decisions.
Right.
The result of it was unpleasant. And it's not because somebody else didn't know. We made choices. And there's some things you've done that you already knew that possible outcome, but you chose to do it anyway. Right. So we had to face some hard truths. And there were some things I had to really acknowledge in this, in writing this book, in my process of healing, that some of this stuff, some things I brought on myself. And some things I didn't. But because it all happens, it all kind of feels the same. And so it calls me to have this distorted perception of safety. It calls me to have a distorted understanding of my own boundaries. What I thought was boundaries really wasn't boundaries.
Right.
And so, it was a lot of things I had to suck up. Like, you know what? That was on me. Yeah. And it's not easy.
Right. It's never easy, but in order to know who you truly are, you have to understand what you've allowed. You have to acknowledge your account of accountability part in it. So yeah, I've been there. We have another question. Miss Joy says, do you think suppressing, not doing it anymore, but I used to suppress my feelings and stuff that happened, and it was hard for me to function in society, so I isolated for years.
Well, I think that's exactly what happens when we suppress for so long. It does show up in your behaviors, and it does impact how you show up in the world, whether it's work, relationships, family, or just with yourself. We don't know how to, our relationship with ourselves suffer. And so I think you're right. Not wanting to suppress it anymore is key. Is another sign that says, okay, get the support I need so I know how to work through this, so I can identify who I am versus who I'm not, right? And so, yeah, when I tell you, when you really begin to unpack and really exhale all that stuff with someone who's trained to deal with that, it is so liberating. Oh my gosh, the freedom in that, like,
it feels less heavy.
Oh, it really does.
It
like
feels less heavy. It feels like the weight is not so, like, because it'd be feeling like 20 tons or an elephant sitting on you.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I used to have a saying that, a lot of times we say we need to lose weight. And I used to be like, you got to lose weight, but it's not the weight of your body that you need to release. It's the other stuff that you're keeping with you that you need to release, that just makes it so heavy and toxic and tiring and exhausting and frustration. And then that's where all the emotions come in, the anger, the sadness, the depression, like, because you're still letting all of that impact inside you. So you still carrying it around. So you're still dealing with it.
It's funny you said that, because there's another chapter of my book where I talk about.
I'm gonna stop giving the chapters out.
Did you read my book? No. So there was a part of time in my life where I was over 200 plus pounds, right? And I would emotionally eat. And a lot of us do things to numb the pain. Some of us drink, some of us smoke, some of us do risky things. I ate and I shopped, and I would eat and eat and eat and eat. And over the time, I was getting a whole lot of weight. So when I got into therapy, I really began to go to therapy, because I would stop and go. And go. So I really took the time to invest in that process. I actually lost the weight, but it was the emotional weight of all that I had gone through.
Right.
That then resulted in me losing the actual physical weight. So I went from wearing like a 18, almost 20 to a 10. That a lot of weight, right? And yeah, because before the trauma, I was about this size. I wasn't small, but I was
right. But yeah, because I know, like me, well, see, when I get depressed, I don't eat, but I think I shop. I think that was my thing, but I learned how to, I went to therapy and everything. But yeah, I've been there. For some reason, when I'm angry or going through something, I don't eat, so I end up losing weight anyway.
Oh, so, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's different for different people. Everyone deals with it differently, and so that's why I say it manifests itself differently. And so that's why it was important for me to get that help, so I can know who I was. Because oftentimes we've had some life experiences. It creates these narratives in our heads, in our minds. And I posed some questions in the book to really have you assess what conversations are you having with yourself the most, because that's who you're going to listen to, whether it's defeating thoughts, whether it's affirming thoughts, whether it's critical thoughts. You're going to listen to that and play those tapes, and it's going to play out in how you show up, how you make decisions, how you interact with people. So yeah, we have to be really aware of self.
She said, yes, I've been to therapy and I've got an appointment coming up soon. That's great.
Yeah. So yeah, so like I said, this book is a combination of me, but also therapy talk.
Right. But it's a great experience for people, and it is just definitely a great thing to help people, understand what they're going through and how to go through life, not thinking that they're alone and you can actually do the work. You just gotta want to do the work.
That is key. You have to be intentional with that process of healing. You have to want to make that change. Is it going to be easy?
No.
Is it going to feel scary? Yep. Because you're dealing with the things of everything you try to avoid. And so I encourage you, do it. Go through it with support. I mean, you can tell you can be like, I did that. And then you can write a book, and then you can help other women. No, seriously, you can then find your purpose and then do something that's meaningful for others.
You're very welcome, Joy. She said thank you both so very much.
You're welcome.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that's a blessing. So make sure y'all go out in April. You said April 30th, right? Is when it's
April
gonna be
30th
released.
in Philadelphia, PA.
So if y'all in the Philadelphia area, make sure y'all go see her to get y'all copy, signed copy. Go see her. Dr.
And copy.
Reeder will be in the building.
And you can find me on social media at Dr. Tashina Reeder on Facebook, Instagram, and on LinkedIn if you want to learn more about the book signing, where it will be, and how to grab a copy of the book. So my
I'm
name
so
is
excited.
how you see it on social media handles.
I'm excited. So now, being that this book came, is there another book in the making?
Yes. You know what? I don't know what it is yet, but when I tell you, this was one of I had 3 manuscripts, and this is one of them that I finished writing. And so I have 2 manuscripts I'm going to finish writing. I don't know when, but I definitely have 2 other books that will probably come in the next few years. Yeah.
That is super dope. Like
Yeah.
that's just totally awesome. Now, is there any other, like, because I know you said the merch, you got the academy.
Mhm.
Are you planning or adding more to the academy besides the women manifestation
Mhm.
thing going on, or is there anything else that's going to be added to the academy that you have already?
Yeah, so we're going to have a bunch of courses that you'll have access to. And then what I plan on doing is having conferences and retreats. I remember when I first started kind of this business, it was called Beautiful Period. And actually, it dropped in my spirit, do a retreat. And I organized a retreat in the Bahamas.
Mm.
It was a cruise, and I had women attend, and it was an amazing experience. So I said, I want to go back to that. So part of this academy will be you have access to not only the courses, but also access to me. Every twice a month, we'll sit and we'll have kind of group talk. But you also have access to going on retreats, to conferences, and things like that. And so
That is totally awesome.
yeah. So I'm
I'm,
excited.
I'm, this sounds exciting. Joy said, I have been to 2 in the retreat. That sounds amazing. I would love to attend one.
Yes, I would love for you also. We had a ball in the Bahamas, and so I'm definitely thinking returning actually therefore to do kind of a new retreat under Manifesting Her, to have it there, but this time not on a cruise boat, but on land, to explore more of
Right.
the island. And so, but it got to be somewhere warm.
Right. Now, with manifesting her and, with the trauma, how important is self-care for people?
Oh, that's huge. I think we don't, and that's another thing. I think people don't realize what self-care encompasses. It really is you paying attention and attending to your wellness, right? And your wellness isn't just about your physical health, but your mental health, your emotional health, your social health, your intellectual health, your financial health, right? And so when we're talking about self-care, it's important because it's self-preservation. If we don't take care of ourselves, your body will tell you, hey, something's wrong. You're gonna get sick, things are happening, you're gonna feel distressed, you're just not gonna feel well if you're not attending to you. And so I always tell people, again, be intentional with some time off. That doesn't mean you have to go away. That could just mean a time out for yourself at home. If you have children, I know it's even more difficult because they're fighting for your attention as well. And so I say, just be creative with it. So when they're napping, you make a nap. Or if they're in school and you're home, that may be your downtime.
Because I was about to say, suppose your kids is not napping age no more.
Right. And so give them an activity. Or if they're occupied with something, maybe that'll be your time to go into the bathroom. I know a lot of women go into the bathroom as like their safe haven. I'm in the bathroom, but they really just like exhaling.
I'm
Right?
about to say, with my kids, going to the bathroom is still almost not like going away because they like, mommy. And I'm like, can I go to the bathroom by myself? No.
And it's harder for women who have children. It really is. But we have to be creative and figure out how we can do this, to make that happen for ourselves. Because it's hard when you're doing multiple things. You feel yourself burning at both ends of the stick, and we have to be intentional with exhaling. Just take it. Like I have on my phone program every 12 o'clock at noon. It's called mindfulness. I'll just sit in silence, exhale, If I'm at work and I'm busy and I can't do it, I'll do something just to think about something to make me smile, just as a moment to kind of remove myself from the busyness of what I was doing.
Yeah, that's definitely great. Like me, while the kids are in school, I take that as my time. I have to, because when they get home, they either want attention, homework, and then it's still mommy, mommy, mommy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I have to take that time from when they're away at school to take that in at least an hour somewhere.
Mm-hmm. It's not
Because
easy. It's a juggling act for sure.
yes, it absolutely is.
Mm-hmm.
Because
So
so
yeah.
many times we forget, we'll help everybody else and forget about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely, we tend to everybody else and making sure everybody else okay, and then wonder why we're so exhausted later and realize that we never unplugged and we're still continuously pouring into other people and then pouring into ourselves.
That's true. And I was told women too, like, self care isn't always something you have to be this drawn out
Right,
activity. It could be simply deep breathing,
right,
taking a time out break and just doing some deep breathing to exhale.
yeah,
And so maybe just listen to your heartbeat or something,
right,
just sit still. It could be something as simple as that. It could be eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired,
right.
or making sure you're going to the doctors, making sure your eyes are good, your teeth
Mm-hmm.
are good, or our women parts are good or healthy, right?
Right.
It's all part of self care as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's just, I hope all y'all hear that. Self-care. It's not that you're being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to have self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Cuz some people, they'll think, "Oh, I'm taking no, you need that self-care in order to be able to function for everything else that you're doing."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're a priority too, right? So if you're not
Right.
well, you can't be well for everybody else.
Right. That is so correct. I had to learn that at one point too, because you was just always, when I first started with the author stuff, I was just going, going, going.
Mm-hmm.
And then we wonder why we're burned out or why we're just so exhausted. And then when you're tired, you're frustrated. And then still being a mom, you wondering why you're frustrated. And it's because you're tired. You didn't stop and take a break.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think as the world turns, I think we're even more busy these days, and so I think we're even more busy. But I think what has happened during the course of this couple of years since the pandemic is people starting to recognize too how your well being, your mental health is important.
Right.
Because yeah, if you have that breakdown, that can be that's a challenge of
Yeah.
itself, right?
Yeah, it is, because if you, especially if you're breaking like all the way to rock bottom, that's a lot of building back up to
Yeah.
be able to function as a normal person.
I mean, it could be done, but you definitely have to
It
invest time,
Yeah,
yeah, to get the help that you need. And so many people
definitely.
experience that, right? And
Yeah,
sometimes that rock bottom, like I said, may look like people engaging in risky behaviors like
right.
substance because they don't know how to cope or deal with the emotions.
Yeah, and they use that as a way to distract whatever's going on. It's like, okay, I just want to numb the pain, or I don't want to think about it anymore, so I'm just gonna do this.
Yeah, and it's not uncommon. Many of us do
Right.
that, so it's not like something's wrong
Yeah.
with you. It has
No, it's
everything.
just, it's what happens. It's a behavior that we feel that that's what's okay at that moment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. So we are going to tell the people how to reach you, how to connect with you, and any more information that you would like to tell them about you or about the book. And, just break it on down for
So, the book again. So, grab your copy of Manifesting Her, the 7 strategies of redefining your identity after trauma, cultivating self-love, and building big confidence. It can be brought at the manifestingherexperience.com, the manifestingherexperience.com. On that website, you'll also see all the things you need to know about the book signing on April the 30th. Super duper excited. The lineup was going to be crazy, though. I'm excited about who all is going to be there as a part of the program for the book signing. So, yeah, tickets are on sale. You all are more than welcome to attend. On my social media handles is my name. So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and on LinkedIn and Clubhouse at Dr. Tashina Reeder. And so that's how you can contact me. And if you want to inquire more about how I can support you as a coach, look me up on my social media handles. We can chat and learn more about the programs that I offer. and all of that. So yeah, thank you for watching and thank you for having me.
Yes.
All of
Thank
that.
you for coming and blessing us. Like, it's always a pleasure to have you. Like, I always learn some new things, and it's just inspiring to connect, because manifestation is it's a great thing. And then for you to say manifestation her is basically like telling people to show up for them. And I have this quote that tells people you got to show it for you first, and then you can show it for everybody else. So absolutely.
That is true.
It,
That is true. Show up for yourself
it
first.
Yes, it's an honor.
Yeah.
So, can you leave them with a positive quote for the week?
Ooh, I have a quote for you. An empowered soul has no limits. Meaning, if you believe it, you can see it, you can touch it, you can do it. There's limitless possibilities when you begin to feel empowered from within. An empowered soul has no limits.
I love it. I love it. I thank you again. It's been an honor having you.
Thank you.
Everybody, I thank y'all for tuning in. This have been Testimonial Tuesday. We was here with Dr. Tashina Reeder. I got it correct, Reeder. That was in the building. She has a book that is coming out that is called Manifesting Her, and it will be out in April. Please like, follow. She's on all social media platforms as see, now I don't want to come out. Tashina Reeder. And y'all can contact her for a book, her schedule, life coaching, and all the above. Always remember to show up for you, because then you can show up for everybody else. This has been your host, Sheena Gadon. As always, I thank you for tuning in for Testimonial Tuesdays. We are here 3 Tuesdays a month, and we'll be back, because we've been here 3 Tuesdays this month, so we'll be back next month. So make sure y'all looking out and catching up. Thank you. Please like, share, comment, tell a friend, and thank you for tuning in. Have a great night, guys.
Good night.
Introducing to some and reintroducing to others. Speaker, entrepreneur, motivational coach, and author, Sheena Gadon.